What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Maestro Vapes. As you saw in the title, you know what you're looking at. It's the Billow. The clouds aren't usually that little, but they're actually pretty big. Does that make any sense? Yeah, the clouds are kind of smaller than a lot of the drippers, but for a tank, it blasts super duper well. All right, this is the Billow tank. It holds just under 5 mils of e-liquid. It's made by EhPro and Eciggity. All right, so we're gonna take a look at it, check it all out, take it to bits, see how it all works, build it up, and then wick it. Now, a lot of people have been asking me how I wick the Billow, so if you just want to skip to that, you can. No big deal, like no skin off my back. All right. Let's just go in. Let's check it out. We'll come back after the build and talk a little bit more about this guy. All right, let's take it in. All right, so here it is, my brother Billow tank. It comes in this box. EhPro and Eciggity make it, as it's stated on the side of the box. Okay, and that's your packaging. Okay, just slide this open. Another box slides out of this little thing. There's an insert here, opens up, and there is your RTA. Okay, it comes out of the box. There's an insert in this box as well that contains underneath, looks like some hollowed eco wool. Oh no, maybe that's 2 strands of silica. Piece of wire, which looks to be about 26 gauge wire. A couple extra O-rings in that bad boy. And a screwdriver, standard. It's got Phillips and flathead on it. All right, put that stuff back in the box. Let's look at the atomizer. Make a mess of that. Put this thing back and get rid of it. Okay, so here's the atomizer. This is what it's going to look like. Comes with this drip tip as well, which is really matchy. It's got these little cutouts in it all over, so it's pretty streamlined. One thing that I really dig about this thing is the quartz glass tank. Like, there's a lot of glass, so you can see what's going on in there. And I dig that. You know, I like seeing the bubbles come up as the juice flows into the chamber. I like seeing exactly how much juice is in this thing. I really dig that about it, okay? It's pretty clean looking. All right, top of this thing, drip tip on it, comes out. It's held on there with 2 O-rings, and it's a decent bore. You know, it works well for the tank. Top of it is just clean. That's it. Let's look at the bottom, actually, before we get into this, okay? Copper post in there. Conductivity is going to be decent. There's 2 flathead screws here. Now, what that does is adjust your airflow. So the more you back them out, the more airflow you're going to get. The more you push them in, the tighter your draw is going to become. There's also this little Phillips screw in there. And the Phillips screw is for your juice fill. That is your fill port, okay? And it says designed by EhPro and Eciggity. And it's got a serial number on the bottom of that guy. Hopefully you can see that. All right. The way you open this thing up, top cap unscrews. It's really sticky now because I just washed it, so the O-rings are kind of sticky here. And your chimney section holds that together. All right. This glass is just press fit into the O-ring on the bottom. O-rings come off if you want to take them off to clean them. Chimney comes apart, and your deck, okay? Now, the top of this guy, it's got your O-ring. Like I said, it comes out. If you want to clean it, get underneath there, get the juice buildup out of there, you can certainly do that. The threading on the top of this thing is decent. It's very decent, all right? The glass section on this thing is a pretty thick piece of quartz glass. It is, but you got to be careful with it because it will break really easily if you hammer it around. Like if you're a construction worker and you got a tool belt with a hammer on it, you know, you're probably not going to want to put this in the same tool belt. You know what I mean? It's going to smash. The chimney section, it's got an O-ring on the top. threads into the top cap. Like you saw, it's a single piece chimney, unlike K-Funds and stuff like that where it's a two-piece. It's got your Eciggity logo on there, which is pretty cool. And it's got a conical shape to it. One thing that I have noticed in here is when I go to clean it, there's a tiny bit of rust that just goes up into that shaft. And I don't think it's a big deal, but it is there, so I'll let you know about it. All right. Threading on this guy is a little squeaky a lot of the time, but it's not bad. It's pretty decent. Okay. All right, sorry about that, guys. I had a little bit of technical difficulty there when I started up this this section of the video. So the deck, all right? The deck, it's got 4 screws on it because your positive post in the center has 2 post holes in it. Now, that's just a pleasure to build every time, all right? It's got these raised cyclops airflow holes, which are pretty decent. It's going to minimize the leaking of your juice, all right? But you're going to want to be really careful with the way that you wick this to reduce leakage, all right? And I'll show you how we do that in a sec. Yeah, really generous juice channels that come up onto your deck. And that's pretty much it. You know, it's got a little inlet right here for your juice. So when you're filling it from the bottom, you take that screw out and the juice just comes up and into your tank. All right. So let's get into building this thing because that's kind of the fun part for me. That's why I shoot these videos because I dig doing this. I'll put this on something. I'm going to need a screwdriver. Can't use the old trusty one because these Phillips slots are a little small. Just going to back those out so that we can get our wire in there. It's always the dull part of the video. Maybe I should edit this. All right, so we're ready to fill it up. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing 26 gauge Tiger build. And that's one of the reasons why I shot the How to Twist Tiger video a little while back, because there was going to be a couple of Tiger builds coming up. So refer to that video if you don't know how to twist up Tiger wire. In that video, I'm doing Tiger wire with 24 gauge and 0.8 ribbon. This is 26 gauge Canthal with 0.8 ribbon. All right, so I got 2 pieces here, and I'm just going to wrap up a couple of coils. All right, using a 2.4 mil, also known as 3/32 bit for this. And I'm going to start throwing wraps into this. How many wraps? Check it out. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, we're going to do 7 wraps, and this is going to be a decent vape. The thing I like about this is you can get your coil ready, put it in, set it up, and you're good to go. All right, let's get that lined up. And if I can get that positive lead going pretty much directly into the hole, then it's going to center itself up really nice. Got to bring this in pretty tight though when you're using a 2.4 mil. You can opt out and do a 2 mil bit or 2 mil driver to wrap this on if you like. And just arch that a little bit. Got to be careful that your negative lead doesn't hit the positive block. You want to make sure that you have some clearance for your chimney to go over this too. Tighten that guy down. We're getting there, dude. We are getting there. Now, sometimes it's tough to get your other coil in here because you're blocking your post out. So what I do is I just jack this thing up. And I jack it up so that I can push my other coil underneath it. Like my other lead underneath it, and that's it. Now, let me get my wire cutters and I can cut these leads off. It's pretty quick to build, actually. Try and get these in nice and tight. Boom. Because you don't want it touching your other coil. All right, so we got one. Let me wrap up this other one real quick. Same thing, 7 wraps. Going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a 7th one, right? And there we go. And hammer this one into place. That will go underneath that coil, just like so, coming out under. And then I position it just the same way I did the other one, trying to get that positive just lined up even. And then I can push the rest of it into place. Now I got to take it in pretty close to that positive block, but not touching it. Snug that guy down. Make sure that's okay. Then I push this in a bit. Make it easier to pinch it up. Come on there, little buddy. All right, she's snugged. Now I can clip this lead off. Let that one fly across the room. But the other one's a little more difficult. I pull it off to the side a bit. Then I drop this other coil back down. And then I can get in there with my cutters. All right. Bam. That's it. That's all. Your coil is built. Now you got to play around with this a little bit, position it a little bit. That's fine. I'm just going to go over my connections here a little bit. Just make sure all my screws are nice and tight. So they're always going to take, with tiger wire especially in twisted builds, they'll always take like a quarter to a half turn extra. You know? Because they kind of flatten out in that spot where the screw makes contact with it. Just going to try and center this up a little bit. It's looking decent. This other guy, squeeze that in. I like to use my fingernail as kind of a little lever there. And then that way it doesn't push that coil out. Like you don't get that big chunk out of it. All right. Now you can kind of see how this leg is just arching in from the bottom. Just make sure it's not touching your positive. All right. We can put this on our ohm reader. Check it out. And this thing's really cool because you could do some pretty low res builds on this tank and still get a decent result without burning up the flavors too much. That's what I dig about it. All right, so we're getting 0.24. Usually this comes in between 0.24 to 0.27, depending. All right, let's fire this thing up a bit. Tiger wire always takes a little bit to kind of heat up. That one's looking pretty tight as is. The wraps were a little better on that one. This one's going to heat up. I just pulse it a bit, pinch it a bit. There we go. Switch sides here, pinch this guy a little bit. Beauty. Beauty. That one's firing a ton faster. Let me check these connections here. There we go. have to sweep this one out. There we go. It's looking pretty good, man. Looking pretty good. Now, you just want to make sure that the coils are over top of that airflow. All right? Pretty damn close to it, and you're going to get a decent vape off of it. All right? All right, so not the prettiest coils that I've ever built, but they're going to do the trick. All right? Now, most people are going to wick this with a cotton ball, just an organic cotton ball, so that's what I'm going to do. All right? We're going to find an end here, wherever that is. I think it's over here. All right. Then just peel that thing back. Ugh. Got a little ugly. Oh, it's good. It's salvageable. All right. Got that lump in the middle. I ripped that thing off. Like, we don't need that mess, right? Now I'm going to peel about a half of this thing. And it's going to wick decent, man. So that's a little too much. That's a little more than half. It's too much. You can always take a little bit off, right? Bam. Now, like I always do, I roll it out to get nice, fluffy, even wicking, all right? If you got little lumpies and chunkies, you can kind of work them out. But this cotton is always decent. This is Swispers brand cotton. You can buy this at Walmart. All right, then I just roll it, and mark it with a B and say the magic words. Hocus pocus, hope it doesn't poke us in the eye. Right. And this is where my cloth here gets like super covered in cotton lint. Like, I like to work it in nice and light, and then I put like a little bit more pressure on it. Not a ton though. Just a little bit more. And that's really fluffy, guys. Really, really fluffy. It's not all matted down. It's just fluffy cylinder of cotton, okay? Then you rip it in the middle. Okay, get that end all nice. And then we can get the other one going. Then wick this bad boy up. Just some fluffy cottonness happening. When you keep it nice and fluffy and big like this, it's really going to help, you know, any leaking that might occur in this tank. Because a lot of people have problems with leaking on this guy. All right. Now, let's wick it up. Wick it up, wick it up, wick it up. I'm going to go in, start on my right, and move to the left. Then pull on the right side as I draw it in. Get it to where it feels good. Not too tight, not too loose, which is right about there. You'll work it back and forth a bit if you want. Okay, and we'll do the other side. I always do a ton of cotton. Like, I always cut these huge pieces, and, you know, that's just what I'm used to. I just dig it. You don't have to use this much cotton, like this long a piece of cotton, but that's how I get down. Same thing, just kind of letting it run through the fingers on my right hand while just holding light tension on it. Okay. Draw it back a little bit if you want. You don't really have to. It just feels full. Okay. Now, what I do here is I'll get some scissors, right? And I'll cut it just outside of that deck. Just outside of it. Okay? Just outside of that deck. Same thing goes on this side. Kind kind of just outside of that deck. Straight over. That's how I get busy with it. All right. I don't know why this cotton is just looking like rayon right now for some reason. All right. Now what I do is I start tucking this to kind of build a wall. All right. Take my tweezers and kind of hook them on my finger a lot of the times. And just kind of push this between those posts and back. And I create this little wall. If I can. I think I should have cut this a little closer. Okay. No, that's actually good. Now, this isn't really going to affect your wicking. You're just creating a juice wall that juice can't go through. Now, if you do this, it's not going to leak. It's not going to leak from your wicking. It might leak from condensation that builds up in the tank, but not from your wick, all right? It won't be a wicking issue. And there you go, right? So you got one of these little balls here, and it's just smashed into the corner right here between these posts and by this cyclops slot, but it's not obstructing airflow in any way. So your juice is going to come up the channel. It's going to hit this little piece right here, and it's just going to flow up. That's it. And you're still going to have this fluffiness here. Just repeat this step another 3 times. Okay? There we go. It's kind of awkward to get it started. Just to get it right. But I try and tuck the stuff from the bottom in, and that's what creates my wall. Just like that. And it's tight in there. Like, it is tight. Like, I'm pushing it tight into that corner. And then trying to leave it fluffy to the outside. Alright. And then right here, these little balls are nice. These little balls. These little cotton puffs on the outside are nice and soft, and they will draw your juice well. Rinse, lather, repeat. Get this guy going. Bring that in. Tuck, push, jam, build a wall. Juice wall. Okay, and you still got this little fluffiness. Try to make sure you can keep this fluffiness in this little pocket here, okay? All right, now one more. Get that wall nice and tight in there. And that's just going to stop that juice. So it's just going to effectively work and run onto your coils. That's it. All right. I kind of make sure there's nothing too much sticking out. And then I can put my chimney on. All right, be careful when you put this chimney on because you don't want to disturb that too much. All right. Make sure it's catching the threads. And because you created those walls, it's not going to move around in there. All right. Then you can put your tank section on. Just press fit that in. Make sure the O-ring's well situated on the top cap. Screw that on. Now, another thing I've seen people do is put the chimney onto the top cap and then screw it all together as well. And one thing that will happen is you'll end up leaving a small gap between your chimney and the base, and it's going to allow more juice to get in there. So make sure you're not doing that. It may seem like a no-brainer, but there's people out there doing that. So put your chimney on and then tighten the top cap with your quartz glass onto it. All right. We're almost ready to vape this thing. I'm getting excited. You know what? We'll use the strip tip. Why not? Okay. Now you fill it from the bottom. Now I can use my trusty screwdriver. Yes. Back that screw out. And there is a little O-ring on this guy. Little tiny O-ring on there. But one thing I have found with this guy as well is the airflow controls tend to move around a little bit. All right, so keep an eye on those, and they will leak kind of condensation out of those. All right, so be careful with that. Some juice. What are we going to put in here? I got some Parallax. Who makes Parallax? Halcyon? I think it's Halcyon makes it. And I'm just going to fill it and let it run down the side. Okay. Here we go. It's going to run down. It's best to do this slowly. So it doesn't get all flooded up. There we go. Let it run down. Keep it on a slight diagonal. That's how I get busy with it. It's another boring part of the video. This is like backing out screws. But this is how it goes, all right? And it's going to come up. And if you keep pushing and pushing and pushing, you're just going to flood it out, right? I got a little piece of air hole there. And that's it, all right? Now, you can put your screw back in. And then the way that I tip this is the same way that I've kind of gotten used to doing K-Funs. Like this is how I would fill my K-Fun Light all the time. K-Fun Light Plus. And then I would grab these airflow holes on either side, cover them so no airflow is getting in, flip it, and wait for that juice to bubble up. And then once the air was out of the bottom, I can let off. All right? And then it's not going to flood on you. Now it's just going to work in. Should see it kind of bubbling up. Bubbles coming out of here. Yep. There we go. And in a few minutes, this thing's going to be ready to vape. All right? So let's take it out and have one, man. Off the Billow. Maybe I'll put this on a reg device. All right, let's take it out. Oh, yeah, man. Okay, for a tank, this thing vapes extremely well, all right? Flavor is not on par with a dripper. You know, that's going to be hard to come across. Hopefully this year somebody makes one that's just like super flavor. But it's close. Like it is very close, and it's a decent tank to vape. That's why I put the Tiger Coil build in it to ramp up the flavor just a little bit, to give you a little extra. Now, the way that I wick this guy, it works. Like it just plain works. It's kind of a pain to poke all that cotton in there and make that little wall in between where that cyclops eye and the positive and negative posts kind of go. But you gotta build that wall. If you don't build that wall in there, it's gonna leak on you. It's gonna leak. Wicking it this way, I haven't had problems with it. Other times, when I've vaped it and I've been building it, the only time I get leaking issues is when I lay it on its side. You know, and one of those air holes is exposed and it kind of runs in and runs out. But if you keep it topped up, you keep it upright, it's going to work really well for you, all right? It's a cool tank, and for the price point, it's super cheap. Like, things are getting much more affordable, stuff that works. So I dig this thing a lot, and it's dual coil. Like, it's a dual coil rebuildable tank atomizer. Like, how friggin' cool is that, okay? Build quality, it's nice. You know, it's decent. Have I seen better? Shit, yeah. Shit, yeah, I have. But for the price point, man, you're paying around... I've seen them as low as about 32 bucks-ish, all the way up to about 45 bucks Canadian. So there's that. It's cheap, man. It's cheap. Eciggity and EhPro did a really good job on this Addy. I'm super stoked about it. The quartz glass tank that's just exposing everything, I really like that. Like, I like to see, you know, the inlets for my juice. I like to see bubbles pop up from it. I like to see how much juice is in there. Like, I just dig that shit, you know? So, very cool work with it. And it's just sleek. It's just sleek and easy to look at. This build, the build, you can put it on your mech if you want. You know, it will perform really well. I think right now I'm vaping it at 60 watts and I'm getting a decent vape. And I'm vaping a tank at 60 watts, you know? So it's a boss little unit. Yeah, it's pretty boss. With the leaking, I have found, though, through those little adjustable airflow control screws, that you can get some condensation that kind of builds up in here and runs out. There is some leaking sometimes from that. I was reading on Reddit, somebody said if you take a little bit of plumber's tape and put them on those little screws, that won't happen, but I don't know. To do that, it's like you got to cut plumber's tape on these tiny little screws to put them in. It sounds like a pain in the ass, and I just don't want to do it. I'd rather just have, like, driblets come out here and there, you know what I mean? As long as my tank isn't just dripping all over the place, I'm going to be pretty happy with it, okay? Yeah, leaking is not a problem if you wick it like I just did, okay? Kind of a pain, but it vapes really, really well. You would think that it takes away from the flavor, and I'm sure that somebody's thinking that right now, but it doesn't. Trust me, it doesn't. The flavor is the same. I've wicked it a ton of different ways. I've done a ton of different builds in here. This is the 26 gauge Tiger build in here. I have built this with 26 gauge 7-wrap duals. I've built this with 24 gauge 7-wrap duals, and it works well all across the board. If you start getting into 22 gauge and stuff like that, it's going to get too hot, and it's going to murder the flavor of your vapor. The airflow it can't give you enough out of it. It'll just kill it. It just burns it up. There's not enough airflow for it. But 2.5 mil airflow holes in this thing work super good. I dig it. I'm like super fanboy of the Billow, and I'm really happy that EhPro and Eciggity put this one together. All right? Hopefully this video helped you guys out. If not, comment below or whatever. Comment if it did help you out, man. It's cool to always have you guys. Remember, guys, butt out, vape up, and breathe easy. Know your limits and vape within it. And you, right there, are going to have a stellar day. All right? Me and the Billow are out. I'll catch you on the next one. Yeah, that vape's good.